and welcome back. In this Black Excellist presentation, we will highlight the top 10 most gentrified cities in America.
Welcome to blackexcellist.com, the site where we celebrate Black excellence, opulence, and affluence. Our mission is to inspire you as we enlighten you.
Gentrification is a powerful force for economic change in our American cities, but it is often accompanied by extreme and unnecessary cultural displacement. While gentrification increases the value of properties in areas that suffered from prolonged distress and disinvestment, it also results in rising rents, increase in home and property values, and loss of community character and cultural legacy. As these rising costs reduce the supply of affordable housing, existing residents who are often Black or Hispanic are displaced. A study from the National Community Reinvestment Coalition, using U.S. Census Bureau and economic data, highlights how gentrification and cultural displacement have unfolded in American cities. The study has found that gentrification often excludes existing residents from the benefits of a revitalizing neighborhood, its economic growth, and the greater availability of services that come with increased investment. But it doesn't have to be this way. Local communities can allow for revitalization and an influx of new residents while preserving affordable housing options for the people who have called these neighborhoods home for decades. This video shines a light on the cities with the highest percentage of gentrifying neighborhoods in America's biggest cities. We will also present the solutions that these cities are implementing to help reverse the inequities and negative effects of gentrification. In this original Black Excellist video, we will be featuring the top 10 cities with the highest percentage of gentrification in America. So without further ado, let's get started. 10. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Like other cities, Philadelphia's past is marred by decisions that pushed low-income people out of their neighborhoods, fostered residential segregation, and stripped wealth and opportunity from low and moderate-income neighborhoods. These were deeply racialized decisions that had an outsized negative impact on people of color, and which resonate in the persistent poverty and inequality of today's Philadelphia. As for solutions, policymakers should take responsibility to embrace ideas that not only prevent the deepening of inequality, but also begin to compensate for the errors of the past as wealth and opportunity flow back into Philadelphia after decades of decline. Anti-displacement strategies are one part of that effort. Philadelphia has taken a few steps forward, but as their development boom continues, the local government there needs to move quicker. Philly has adopted 2 programs to prevent evictions caused by rising property taxes, one targeted at senior citizens and the other at residents who have lived in their homes for more than 10 years. 9. Seattle, Washington. Seattle is the fastest growing metropolis in the country. The population is swelling and the tech hub is benefiting from companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon, expanding and advertising thousands of jobs. This boom is fantastic news for real estate owners or IT professionals, but for many, the city is starting to feel increasingly like a country club they're not allowed to join. Ever since developers have added thousands of apartments, rents are up nearly 70% on average since 2010. Renovated storefronts and apartment buildings attract new tenants, new businesses, and new clients. From an external perspective, this rebirth is a much-needed change for economically depressed neighborhoods. However, it comes at a cost. Not only is this rebirth pushing hardworking tenants further from their jobs, but it's pushing them from their social support networks as well as public transit. As for solutions, city leaders recently adopted a measure to build affordable housing to protect low-income residents, retain a middle class, curb commutes, and reduce racial disparities in housing. And as the city is funding more affordable housing construction, Seattle has local tech companies like Microsoft who pledged $500 million to support the construction, which could be a model for an inspirational collaboration between the city and corporate America to help stem gentrification. 8. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh's gentrification might surprise some observers. To be on par with fast-growing cities like the others on this list could look unsettling considering Pittsburgh isn't experiencing the same level of economic growth as they are. However, gentrification has been the result of an intentional effort to revitalize several Pittsburgh neighborhoods, as several developers were encouraged to create market-rate housing. Downtown affordable housing was preserved, but without a push to increase affordable units, many residents were forced out due to the increases in the market rate rents. As a result, downtown Pittsburgh itself has been experiencing a significant displacement of Black residents. Most of these changes were driven by Pittsburgh seeing an influx of college-educated millennials moving into historically working-class neighborhoods, even though many of those millennials were actually working low-wage jobs themselves. As for solutions, City Council and regional leaders have introduced legislation calling for inclusionary zoning in Pittsburgh that would force new developments to include some affordable units. Community leaders are looking for much broader and bolder changes, like investing millions of public dollars into workforce development, quality education, and equitable housing development instead of sports stadiums. 7. Portland, Oregon. Portland is celebrated for its urbanism and charm, from its natural beauty and bikeability to the Portlandia brand of over-earnest hipness. But while being lauded for its livability, some residents ask the question, livability for whom? Portland is one of the least racially diverse major U.S. cities since it is 77.7% white and only 5.7% African American. Its small Black community has often found itself priced out of many historical sections of the city. Once characterized by an abundance of affordable housing and several predominantly African American neighborhoods, Portland's gentrification and cultural displacement is decimating these neighborhoods that were once majority Black populations. While many Black Portlanders appreciate the physical improvements associated with recent neighborhood revitalization, they also lament the loss of character and community that comes with it. As for solutions, community-led initiatives are proposing more holistic solutions that go beyond housing, envisioning a more holistic approach for Portland. One idea that has been conceived is the notion of an eco-district. This is a sustainable neighborhood planning paradigm that factors in health and environmental impacts. It would include a new series of public structures that could help rebuild community, provide health and educational benefits, and become catalysts for the economy and entrepreneurs. 6. Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore is a rich and vibrant city with tons of culture and history, but has long been afflicted with a housing crisis. Charm City struggles with both massive abandoned vacancies, derelict properties, and urban blight. The urban depression is further exacerbated by homelessness, eroding tax bases, and impoverished schools. Thousands of low-income housing units are often overtaken by predatory developers whose mission is to rebuild these neighborhoods to attract wealthy residents rather than making these areas better for residents who already live there. And as the new affluent arrivals settle in, they impose their culture on the community as the lower-income residents become economically and socially marginalized. As for solutions, residents and leaders of Baltimore are experimenting with an innovative solution to overhaul neighborhoods through developing community land trusts. The idea would be to establish communally owned property under a democratic governance structure, which allows residents and the surrounding neighborhood to cooperatively manage land and property use. Five, Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta is a special case in the history of housing in the U.S. It was the first city to develop public housing in 1936, and the first early this century to close it down completely, leaving all its housing subject to the invisible hand of market forces. Now with wealthier, younger, and melanin-challenged people moving into Atlanta neighborhoods, with its cheap home prices and attractive location, it is stoking concerns that longtime residents will be pushed out by higher rents, property taxes, and possibly a cultural shift that says they are no longer welcome. In no place is that more true than in the city's Old Fourth Ward neighborhood, where Martin Luther King Jr. grew up, and which is now home to the MLK Historic National Park. Driving the changes most is the Atlanta Beltline, a multi-billion-dollar development project to repurpose a mostly disused and overgrown 22-mile ring of freight rail tracks into a corridor for transit trains, green space, walking trails, and bike paths. While it has been hailed for improving the city, the Beltline has been contentious with residents who believe such improvements will lead to their own exclusion. Many working-class Atlanta renters find themselves caught up in a gambit of developers who see current tenants as an obstacle to renovating units that would attract richer and affluent residents. As for solutions, community leaders are encouraging the city to offer tax incentives for real estate investors who choose community reinvestment, where they build upon what currently exists in the community and address the concerns of its existing residents. A partnership between the government, nonprofits, and developers can also be leveraged for mitigating displacement, including just cause eviction protection, rent stabilization, workforce development, and affordable housing. To the latter's point, the Beltline has not met its commitment of 5,600 affordable houses that city legislators required for the project, but it has planned to give $11.9 million to meet that quota by 2030. 4. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Residents of New Mexico have relied on communal ways of life for several centuries, long before European colonization, and the cooperative and community-based models are an integral part of Native American life. Important to Albuquerque's development is its strong sense of culture and heritage, as nearly half of the city is Latino, with deep ties to Native American traditions and art. However, shifting tides of settlement patterns, ebbs and flows of the tech boom, and economic growth have greatly impacted the region and its residents. The delicate balance of cultural heritage, diversity, and rapid technological development must be balanced to ensure equitable growth and economic stability for all residents. As for solutions, the city has proposed and implemented a number of community-based wealth-building initiatives to combat gentrification and rising land costs. Community wealth-building organizations in Albuquerque work hard to meet the particular needs of Native American, Latino, and other indigenous communities. Organizations such as the Rio Grande Community Development Corporation has incubated over 100 new businesses in low-income communities in the city since opening in 2003, but a lot more needs to be done. 3. New York City, New York. New York City has always been a place that is dynamic and evolving. In recent years, parts of Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, and Manhattan have seen an influx of high-rises, green spaces, and private businesses with little to no input from current community residents. Ultimately, these changes are not meant for low-income Black and Latinx people, but for an ever-growing group of affluent white professionals and tourists. Gentrification in New York has multi-dimensional negative impacts. It displaces low-income Black and Latinx families. It creates and exacerbates abject poverty. And finally, it contributes to racialized over-policing. As for solutions, New York State is passing laws to prevent residential displacement while taking steps towards supporting vulnerable communities. New York is investing $20 billion to combat homelessness and preserve and expand new affordable housing across the state. Subsidized housing and tenant protections such as rent control and just cause eviction ordinances have been effective tools for stabilizing communities. However, as gentrification continues to rise, residents' ultimate power rests in their collective ability to compel local government to yield to community interests. 2. San Diego, California. Many of the storefronts along Logan Avenue, a main thoroughfare in the predominantly Hispanic neighborhood of San Diego, that were once boarded up or on the brink of failing, have been replaced by vibrant national franchises. This is making the Latinx communities here feel that upper or middle class people are invading their communities of color, resulting in negative consequences, whether intended or not. And although new businesses can improve the look of the San Diego community, they do the opposite for the living conditions of the current residents. San Diego's urban renewal projects are pouring money into distressed areas, but the higher property values are forcing many families to leave what have been their homes for generations. Residents are noticing that the city's aggressive revitalization effort is ripping up downtown areas and replacing them with closed-off developments that choke traffic and create communities that are islands of isolation. As for solutions, San Diego community activists are proposing that city planners and designers breathe new life into the city by connecting neighborhoods, creating openness and intimacy, while encouraging residents to commingle and cross-fertilize. 1. Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has the highest percentage of gentrifying neighborhoods, pushing out low-income residents at the highest rates of any city in the country. Nearly half the neighborhoods in the city were eligible for gentrification in 2000, and 41% of those neighborhoods were gentrified by 2013, displacing more than 20,000 people. Most of those pushed out of these economic hotspots are Black low-income neighbors, single mothers, or those without a college degree. Once known as Chocolate City, the DC population used to be over 71% African American in 1970. By 2015, that number has dropped to 48%. Washington, D.C.'s problems are double-pronged since the low-income population is increasing at an even more alarming rate. So not only are the rents going up in these declining areas, but the poor people who live there are becoming increasingly worse off. The continuation of a robust real estate market since 2013 means it is likely that this trend is continuing to this day. City leaders and investors contend with significant pressures in maintaining housing affordability and neighborhood diversity in the face of supporting a hot real estate market that caters to young, affluent professionals. As for solutions, the voices of the DC community propose that the city not only build and preserve affordable housing, but they also insist that transit equity, public health, cultural preservation, and efforts rectifying historical wrongs should be part of an effective toolbox of solutions.
We appreciate the fact that you stayed with us until the end. Thank you for spending time with us, and don't forget to like this video. Also, make sure you subscribe so that you never miss a video. Bye for now. We will see you tomorrow.